You're listening to the Loida Lewis Podcast, hosted by Loida Nicholas Lewis. She's a trailblazing businesswoman, leader, philanthropist, and the widow of Reginald F. Lewis, the visionary leader who was the first African American to build $1 billion company. With unparalleled determination, Loida Lewis has not only excelled as a successful attorney, but also shaped a $1 billion empire. Following the untimely passing of her husband, Reginald F. Lewis, she took the helm of TLC Beatrice, carving her legacy as a successful business leader. Be inspired and learn from her as she shares her wisdom, the secrets to her success in both business, in love, and in life. Let's live, love, laugh, and learn. With your host, Miss Loida Lewis.
Welcome to the Loida Lewis Podcast. And today, I have the pleasure of presenting to you a Tony Award-winning actor. And you have seen him in Law & Order, Jurassic Park, and of course, I remember him in his role in M. Butterfly. We have today BD Wong. Thank you, BD. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
Home.
Thank you. So I'll start from the very beginning.
Ooh, okay.
What impelled you, or when did you start dreaming to be an actor?
I was always very performative, and I was interested in music. I had a wonderful elementary school music teacher and taught me the joy of music. And I thought that was really all just kind of, it's something that I enjoyed doing, and didn't really realize why I enjoyed doing it. It turns out that performance and kind of connecting with people or getting reaction from the audience was a part of my thrill. And so it really wasn't until high school when I was in my first play, playing a role in a play and feeling the audience's energy, that I understood that I wasn't really a musician, that I was more of a storyteller, I guess. And so that's when I began pursuing it. But it was a slow evolution, as a very young, tiny person, understanding oneself. And the journey of that is very gradual, very gentle. Like, I think I like something about this, but I'm not sure what it is. And then following it and it allowing, luckily I was allowed to take it to the place where it actually ended, which is where I am today.
Well, lovely. Being Asian myself, you must have had influence, or your parents has some influence on you, or did they allow you to be who you are?
They were a little bit of both. They had they're children of immigrants, and they had their own preconception at first about what their children would do and what it would mean for their children to have a better life than their parents and grandparents. And so being a performer was not part of that for them. But I had an incredible mentor in high school, and she was very enthusiastic about my potential. It was all about my potential at that time. And she talked me into pursuing it, and then she helped me to talk my parents into pursuing it seriously, not just for fun. And that was crucial for me, to have the permission, to have the endorsement of someone who I looked up to, and for them to also play a role in the discussion with my parents. So those were very important things that all came together, that I wish on anyone who has aspirations like I did.
Wonderful. So do you remember that first play that you played the role that you said, so this is what it is to act in front of the audience?
Well, I was, to connect the whole thing with me being a musician, I played the violin, and I played the violin apparently very well. I had private lessons and all that stuff. But I could tell, when I look back now, I didn't love it that much. But I did it well, and I did it because I could and because my parents encouraged me to. And then when I was sitting in a class in high school, as an underclassman in high school, a teacher came in to ask us, say he was recruiting musicians for the school musical. And I said, oh, I'll sign up to do that because I can play the violin. And my friend, I had a very theatrical friend who had been in plays before and whose family had a small theater company. And she said, you don't want to do that. She said, the action is not in the orchestra pit. The action is on the stage. And I secretly wanted her, I think, to make me go try out for the play. And so she dragged me there, and I tried out for this play. And this is where I met this teacher, Mrs. Chanis, who was absolutely essential in my life path, or turned out to be. And Mrs. Chanis said, well, you know, as a teacher, I realize now as a teacher, she had her whole spring musical mapped out with the students she wanted to give opportunities to, and they were mostly upper class kids, and you know, the kids that were seniors, and so she said, well, I can't really give you a leading part, but if you hang out at rehearsal, I will give you small parts. So I came to rehearsal every day. It turns out I was so into it, I didn't even know why. I was so drawn to it. And I sat in the auditorium with her. I was probably one of the only students who did. And every day I sat a little bit closer to her and closer to her. And every time there was a policeman or a clerk or a person with one line or something, she called on me and I ran up and I played this part. And so at the end of the rehearsal process, I had this series of small parts that were all strung together, and I was always changing my costumes. And to me, that was magical. I felt so alive and joyful and creative. And then the next year, she did a play, and she gave me a role in that play, and that was a comedy. And I remember feeling the audience's approval and
they laugh
and laughter. Yeah. And that was really important to me. That was a really important moment of my understanding what I could do and who I was, my identity.
That's terrific. So early on,
Yeah.
you somehow evolved into, this is what I like.
Yes, and I have to reiterate, it has a lot to do with mentors. It has a lot to do with being recognized, being seen by your grown-ups or by people around you. And so I realize now in my life that I look for opportunities to provide those avenues for younger people because it's so important. You know, they could just dismiss themselves because nobody encourages them.
Right. Affirmation. So your teacher, this drama teacher,
Yes.
saw the potential in you.
Yes.
And she took one more step
Yes.
to talk to your parents.
Yes, that's right.
Yes, because
She really believed in me, and I wouldn't be sitting here if she didn't put such belief in me and energy into it.
Wonderful. For all those, teachers out there,
Yeah.
please listen from BD Wong, okay? Your influence on an aspiring actor or anything.
Anything.
When you identify it, okay, affirm,
Yes.
encourage,
Yes.
just be attentive
Yes. Yes.
to each person, to each of your children's potentiality.
Yes, teachers. I mean, of course, parents too. Teachers and parents are so important. We think it's all we can do as a parent to get through the day of our kids. Getting them where they're supposed to go and doing all the things they're supposed to do. But the larger picture of who they are and what they are to become or what they can become is so important to never lose sight of. And I love that about parenthood, and I love that about teachers too.
That's terrific. All right, so now you're encouraged. High school.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what did you decide then? If this is something that you'd like to do?
Yeah. Well, she ran with me, and she gave me lots of opportunities. And this is where my race was not a barrier. It was in high school. She gave me lots of wonderful roles that had nothing to do with my race. And she let me have the experience of playing these wonderful roles. And
For instance, can you give an example?
The Music Man.
The Music Man. Oh my God. My goodness. That is so
Iconic,
that's
right?
a very difficult piece.
Yes,
Just saying all those words on the train.
Yes, that's right.
Wow.
Yes.
So you
And
were the music man?
so I was the music man, yes. And
So everybody, please go to your internet and watch the movie,
God.
The Music
Yes,
Man.
yes.
And he was the music man.
Yes. And so this was an example of how she gave me this huge responsibility, leading role, and she knew, and as a lot of drama teachers in that even today know that the kid is going to have draw so much from that experience of having the responsibility of playing that role. And she was a wonderful teacher. And she also gave me the opportunity to do many other things behind the scenes. I was always designer of the poster and the scenery, and I directed a lot of the productions, and I choreographed a lot of the productions. You became
also the director,
yes.
Assistant director.
Well, she gave me productions to direct on my own, too.
Wow.
And then she hired me after I had graduated, just the very following year, to direct the school play after I came back. And that was her giving me, at first I thought, oh, she just doesn't want to do it. She's going to give me the job of doing it. But it wasn't just that. She wanted me to be a director, and she wanted me to be a designer and all that. She had a favorite opera director who was one of the directors that was often featured at the San Francisco Opera, where she was a patron. And he designed the sets and the costumes and directed the operas. And she said, that's who I want you to be.
Wow.
And she always told me, you must do more than one thing. And I was just talking about how I have learned more recently to reconnect with those other things, because it took so much energy to maintain my career as an actor that I had to be very single focused about it. And it isn't until recently that I've started to write again and reconnect with all of these other aspects of production and directing productions. And so that's all also due to her planting the seed in my mind of the identity, of my identity as she saw it.
That's terrific. That is just, even before its time, she blind casting.
Yes.
It's only recently that we have blind casting,
yes.
But she already saw the potential in you.
She did,
yes.
And she understood that, and she understood what she valued over any issue that the casting might bring up. What she prioritized was my education. I prioritized my experience as a young person. She prioritized the fact that we were in an educational context. She did not worry about the politics and there really weren't any negative, ramifications. But if there were, she overrode them with the fact that we were in an educational context. And when I went to college,
which college?
I went to my home state university, San Francisco State University.
San Francisco.
Yes, San Francisco.
Yes.
And I went to a theater program that did not have the same philosophies that she had at all. Oh, and this isn't the right word, but I was spoiled by her. She had built me up into a place where I knew my own value and my confidence, and I was invisible in this program. And I had such a rich...
Your major was arts and
theater arts.
Theater arts,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I was never cast or, I was barely noticed at all. And this, I think, has a little bit to do with race and a little bit to do with I didn't look like a typical leading man to them. And yet they didn't give me the educational regard that my teacher in high school had. So I did quit. I came to New York, where we are now, and decided to learn how to be an actor in a practical kind of day-to-day, on-the-street kind of training. And I have no regrets about it.
So you didn't go to these, Strasbourg,
I didn't finish. No, I
Strasbourg,
didn't. No.
Or yeah.
I studied, and I had teachers, and I eventually figured out how to study independently. And I urged younger acting students to learn how to act, to study.
To learn the craft.
To learn the craft, because it's not just innate, it's actually learned. And to understand the different mediums of film and television and how they relate to each other and how they don't relate to each other. And so I did that, but I didn't do it in a university context.
Yeah, let's say hard knocks of experience.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So when you came
I'm still doing that.
So he's still evolving.
Yes.
Yes. But when you came to New York, wasn't that a little daunting? Did you
Very.
know people here?
No.
No. So
I didn't.
he just dared to come to New York. Why not Hollywood? You were in California.
Yeah.
That's where the movies are.
Yeah.
But why New York?
Because I did love the theater, and because I was trained and experienced in the theater, and that was my passion. And I loved musicals, and I wanted to work on Broadway. And so that is why I came and had great experience working my way up through the chorus and all of that stuff, and working in all kinds of different little dinner theaters and regional theaters and children's theaters. And then I did eventually find my way to LA, and I lived in LA for a while. And then by comparison have chosen to live in New York for most of my life now.
Okay. So as I said, I mentioned earlier, I do remember M. Butterfly. Can you tell that experience? Because there you got a Tony.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Well, it was, it is it was a very big experience for me. I was living in LA at the time. I had gotten my first chorus job in a tour, and the tour went to LA, and I was living in LA when I heard about this audition for this play. The play was the first play that I had ever seen an Asian person's name on the first page. It was written by David Henry Wong, a great Asian American playwright, and it was his Broadway debut as well. So there really hadn't ever been a Broadway play written by an Asian American that debuted on Broadway. And this was 1988. And to make a long story short, I was studying, just like I told you, with an acting teacher in Hollywood, an independent teacher. And he helped coach me for that audition and helped me get that part. It was a long process of getting that part. It took months. I auditioned and auditioned again several times. It was arduous, and they gave me the part. I didn't think, when I borrowed money from my mom and dad to fly to New York for the audition, because I said, well, they want me to fly to New York. They don't know me. They're not going to pay for me to fly to New York. But I do feel like I want to audition for this incredible role in this incredible play. And they gave me, I think it was like $99 or something, to fly.
Round trip.
Yes, on a Spirit Airlines or something, I don't remember, to New York, knowing that I said, I'm not going to get it, but I think this experience is an important enough one to try to have, to build your experiences, your audition experiences, your audition vocabulary, and to meet these world-class artists, the director and the playwright. But I'm not going to get it. And then I did get it, and I ended up moving back to New York, and I haven't really moved away from New York since then. And it was a very large role. It was the success of the play relied on the success of the performance. That's how I felt. I felt very pressured by it. I felt the play might not work if I wasn't good in it. And it was challenging on so many different levels. I had in that experience an acting partner and a mentor. His name is John Lithgow, a great American actor. And he also, I was very lucky to have a mentor kind of relationship with him that really supported me and helped me do my best work. And he was very patient with me. And so I'm always grateful to him for the things that I learned from him and the patience that he showed me. And it opened a lot of doors for me. And the play was a big success. David won a Tony, and
and you won a Tony.
And I won a Tony too, yes.
Yes, for Best Actor.
Featured actor,
Featured actor.
Yeah.
Okay, so M. Butterfly, for those who don't know, there is Madame Butterfly. This is the opera of, a Western man and a woman. It's Miss Saigon.
Yes,
all
it
right?
is,
That's,
yeah.
But this one is a true story of a French diplomat who fell in love with an actress he thought was an actress, but the actress was really a man. That's the way.
The premise, yes.
The premise is that Chinese actresses don't exist. Women play roles of.
Men play
the roles of a
women
woman.
Yeah, like in Shakespeare and like in kabuki.
Right.
And in Chinese opera, the men play all the parts.
Right.
And so the play was about how could it happen that this man fell in love with this woman and didn't realize that she was a man.
Yes.
And it's because, and it wasn't so much about her being transgender or anything like that at the time. It was a kind of a metaphor for the narrow-mindedness of racism and the narrow-mindedness of a certain kind of white person that sees us a certain way, and then we become that to them. And that's what she became to him. So he was blind to the fact that not only that he was a man, but that he was a spy and using him. And it's a very juicy, wonderful, poetic play.
It's an excellent play. M. Butterfly. And I really admire you playing this geisha, or a woman, playing the geisha, this beautiful actress that the French diplomat fell in love with. It was terrific. It was terrific.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a true story. Yes.
Yeah, it's based on a true story. It is, all intents and purposes, this French diplomat did have this deception happen to him. David took it and used Madame Butterfly as a metaphor, and brought out from their true story, very brief little story he read in the New York Times about them. He drew out of them these wonderful ideas about racism and politics and narrow-mindedness,
Right.
tunnel vision.
Tunnel vision. Yes. 1988. Very early.
Yes.
Very early on.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. So you said it opened many doors. So
Yes.
yes.
Well, it was soon after that I started really working in films, getting parts in smaller parts in major films. And throughout the 90s, that is what I mostly did. And it was then at the end of the 90s that I got 2 television series very close to one another. One was the first hour series on HBO, which was called Oz. And then that led to me getting a contract on Law & Order SVU.
Law and Order,
And
yes.
in the year 2000, my son was born, and I became a parent, and I was a diehard New Yorker. I really didn't want to, and I was, was also an actor who didn't want to go to LA that often. I'm still like that. But I realized that if I wanted to stay home and be a parent, the best thing for me would be to have a contract on a big TV show. And so
It's a
I was
regular
very
job.
lucky.
You don't have to
Yes.
audition each time.
No, that's
Yeah.
right. And the contract lasts maybe 5 or 7 years, and then you renegotiate your contract. Law & Order's been on for 26 years. That's very rare. But if a show runs 5 years, that's a very good run for you. I was on Law & Order SVU for 11 seasons. And I'm so grateful not only for the exposure that it gave me, because I had an exposure from that moment on that I had never had prior to that, and I probably never will again, in this way, where that's just how people recognize me for the most part, or in large part. But I also had an experience as a parent, needing to be stable and needing to be in the same place for a stretch of time, which as an actor, which is a rather nomadic lifestyle, is almost impossible. So I was grateful for that. To this day, I'm very grateful to Dick Wolf and all those people that made that happen for me.
Yes. Tell us about Jurassic Park, because that was like, for moviegoers, wow, to have dinosaurs, in real life, on the screen.
Yes, well, at the time that Jurassic Park came out, CGI and digital special effects were brand new, and the anticipation that people had over the opening of Jurassic Park was really great. They knew they were onto something, and that they were turning a corner in special effects in Hollywood in a very big way. So there was the history of that movie. The movie was also based on a very popular book And I auditioned with that knowledge of that and the excitement of that. I was a little disappointed when the part was pared way down to one day of work on Jurassic Park, when the part in the book was very large. And I'm, to this day, very cynical about why the Asian character in the book was
Pared
completely
down.
pared down. And then there was a kind of retribution when 23 years later they revisited the franchise, and a writer-director named Colin Trevorrow pulled that character out from the ashes of the original movie and gave him more of an arc, gave him more of a real character and a conflict and a journey. And that lasted 3 more movies. So again, I was very lucky and I was very grateful for someone doing that. And I was almost lucky that in the original movie, he was overlooked, because his being overlooked allowed, he wasn't killed. And so as a result of him being overlooked, he was able to be resurrected.
Wonderful. That's terrific. All right. Now, can you just tell the audience what kind of preparation do you do, especially for the Music Man? But, what kind of preparation do you do so that you can present an authentic character?
I really believe in a lot of preparation. And when I am I'm doing a master class or visiting an acting class or talking to students, I urge them to create a work ethic that is exhaustive and thorough and really to get into it and to leave no stone unturned. And I still believe that, and it really works for me. And I love, as I have experimented over the many years that I've been doing this, the times that I have been over-prepared have been the times when I've been in most command of my craft and the most command of the performance, and the work has been best. And I can give you many examples of that, but I'll just say for now, that's really the basic test. And when I am in a collaboration or a new relationship with another actor, sometimes a young actor, sometimes not a young actor, and their work ethic suffers, it drags everyone else down. So preparation is a big thing for me, and I find things like memorization and research and experimentation and dialect work and
Dialect, meaning to say, the accent should be
to like, say, if the person is from a particular regional place, to really learn properly how to not just approximate, but how properly to consistently speak in that accent in the most natural, unaffected way possible. It's very challenging. And a lot of people can nail the accent, but they're very self-conscious about it. The accent sounds good, but then the acting is bad. So you have to be able to get to the point where you can speak as effortlessly as possible with this accent, speaking in a way in which you do not yourself normally speak. And all of those things, details, the costumes and the wardrobe, I'm really into them. I'm super collaborative with all of the various people who work with the actors, the cameramen and the costume designers and the makeup artists and the hair people. I participate in those parts of the discussion, whereas some actors, not all, a lot, but some will just kind of sit in the chair and just do whatever you want and do my hair and do my face, and then they say they're done, and then you go, okay, that's fine. But I'm a little bit more in control of details about that. Sometimes less, sometimes more. And I enjoy that. And I feel that thinking of the craft and what you're doing as, I don't know, a kind of art that has a process, like a painting. I love all of your paintings. You have so many beautiful paintings here. But when you see the detail in the paintings and you understand the care and the layers of thought that have gone into these paintings, none of them are like that. And so the performance is like that. It has layers to it. It has details to it. And the more that you set your mind to those details, the better the performance is, the more deep it can be, the more rich.
Okay, so all of those aspiring for to be an actor, please listen to what he said. A lot of work, being detailed, and you also talk to the makeup artist and the hairdresser and the cameraman. You talk to them as individuals.
And work with them.
And
yes.
work with
it's
them.
It's not demanding them. It's more about kind of, well, what do you think, right? Mm-hmm. Do you like this, or this? Mm-hmm. And for them, their professional opinion in every aspect of it. But this is not just acting. This is everything you do, right? This is anything you choose to do, you go 100%. You go to every detail of it. It is more often a positive than a negative to really get into every detail of something, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, here is the consummate actor, human being, very, very attentive to details and to the other people around him. Wonderful. We have some questions here from the audience, if you don't mind. You have portrayed a wide range of characters, including Dr. George Wong in Law and Order, SVU. How do you ensure your characters feel unique, even within long-running series like Law and Order?
Well,
11 years.
11 years, 11 seasons, 11 years. Mm-hmm. That was kind of when I knew after a certain point that I wanted to leave, actually, because I felt like I had done everything I could do with it.
And your son has grown up.
My son was grown up. Well, not grown up, but he was 11.
11, going to...
So that was easier. Certainly easier than 5 or 2 or 1, Mm-hmm. 11, I could go away and come back and, and do a play somewhere or do a movie, a short run of a movie, a shoot of a movie. And so for Dr. George Huang, I would say keeping that fresh had its limit for me. There are people, Mariska Hargitay and Chris Maloney have been doing those roles for 26 years now. Chris on and off, but Mariska throughout the whole run of the show. How she does it, I do not know. She has a richer, more deeper well to draw from as the leading character of the show, and I did not. And that's a whole other kind of conversation. But there's that. But I think the other part of the question is what about making each individual role different from the one that you played? Not just week to week on the same show, but okay, so that's done. Now I'm going to play another doctor, but a different kind of doctor in Jurassic Park or whatever. How do I approach that? And I kind of think there's an unlimited bag of tricks, and you just have to keep pulling from it and drawing from it and trying to surprise yourself in ways that you are not expecting. This has to do with the use of your voice or the use of your body and the way that you look and your makeup. All of the things that we talked about, the details, they can be changed. They can help to transform you. And so I like to try to do that whenever possible.
That's wonderful. Okay. As a Tony Award-winning actor, what do you feel is the most important lesson you've learned from your time on Broadway?
Oh, Broadway is a very special kind of job to have. I love the theater, and the Broadway is really the height of the theatrical experience, because everything is at such a high quality and at such a high level, and because there's more money and there's more support and there's more attention on it, and
there's no second take.
And there's no second take. That is the thing about the theater in general, not just Broadway, but the theater in general, that is undeniable. That you are, every actor, if they have a small part or a long part, is doing a 2-hour take, walking in and out of it if they have to, but they are doing a 2-hour take, whereas there's no such thing as that in the movies. That you can just chop it all up and cut and paste it and fix it. You can fix it.
Exactly.
You can actually fix it. In this case, if there's a mistake or something, it's out. It's there. It's part of it. Becomes part of it. Sometimes it becomes part of something new that you change and roll with. But the experience for me is more about the people. And it goes back to when I was a young kid and I felt the audience's laughter, but really it's their humanity and their energy and their the fact that they're present, like you and I are present right now. This wouldn't be the same This wouldn't be the same conversation we would be having if we were on the phone or if we were talking. If I was talking to a recorded tape of you asking me questions, it wouldn't be the same. And that is what happens on the theater that doesn't happen in a play. That's what happens in a theater that does not happen in a movie. And you learn to understand and appreciate and love the nuances of the audience's response and to incorporate them into your joy for it and to be spontaneous as a result. And there's nothing better than that for me. It's human storytelling that is much more like storytelling over centuries and centuries, over millions of years of human existence. Just that people have always told stories in some way or another, and the response that they got from the people they were telling the stories to was a part of the way they told them.
That's right. Wonderful, wonderful. And so this is another part because you're also an activist. Okay,
yes.
Can you talk about causes that you're most passionate about? And this is from Yin L.
Well, the first thing I would say about that is that, I think when I was a younger person, I didn't fully have a philosophy about why a person became famous, why you aspire to fame or notoriety or visibility. And as soon as I understood that fame or that notoriety or that visibility lent you a voice or allowed your voice to be heard by people, and that then the potential for you to create positive energy or to create positive conversation about anything that mattered to you, that made sense to me as a reason to want to be famous. That seemed like, oh, okay, I see. Like I just don't want to be famous so that people kind of ooh and ah about pictures of you that are on the internet. That means nothing to me. What's really interesting is when you have something to say and then you're able to say it and people hear you saying it. And it is an extension of being a storyteller, because I think originally I became a storyteller as a theater artist because writers had important things to say. And that David Wong, who wrote Him Butterfly, had something important to say, and I was the vessel. He was never on stage. He gets the credit for having written these beautiful words and these beautiful ideas, but I'm the vessel that carries it. I'm the conduit between him and the audience. And I love that. But then add to that this idea that as a human being, I then gain a visibility that allows me to have a voice of my own or the voice of people that I align with and care about. That's great to me. I love that. And so I, as a member of the LGBTQ plus community, as a member of the Asian American community, I share a lot of policies, causes that I like to talk about. And education and arts education and mentorship for younger people is a huge theme in my life. So between all of those communities, there's a lot of energy and time that I spend kind of just talking about things or spreading the word about things. It ends up being kind of a full-time job as part of it, aside from being an actor.
Yes, being a force for good.
Hopefully,
yes, Yes.
just energy. Yes, a force. Yes, I don't know why I would downplay that. Yes, that is what it is. It's being a part of a force for good.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. Mm-hmm. I can't take it on all myself, but I can be a part of things that I believe in.
Yes, because you have achieved, a level of fame and people have acknowledged, or you have received awards. Then when you speak, people sort of listen.
More,
Yes.
Hopefully they do.
No, they do.
There's a lot of backlash against this on the internet. Oh, actors, they should just be quiet. But that's because those actors are not saying what you want them to say.
Yes,
That's
yes.
always the opponents that say that.
You remain a citizen of the United States.
Yes, that's
with
right.
the right to speak.
That's correct.
Yes. Very good. So one final word for our audience from BD Wong.
That's it? That's it? My final word?
Well, but what would you advise, especially those watching now who have dreams to be, sort of like you?
Well, I'm moved by the fact that you're doing this. I think that what you're doing is really important and really interesting and wonderful, and an example of what we can do with our lives that is useful and culturally significant and interesting, and it can be 1,001 things. What you're doing, right? The conversations you have, they're never the same. You talk to different people, you bring out different things from them, and you share it, and you put it out there into the world. And that's what we should all be doing. We should all be speaking our truth and talking about the things that matter to us and sharing the thoughts and ideas of the people that we're interested in. And that is something that we don't all exercise. I think we're all very often complacent in our energy, and I think people kind of throw up their hands and think, well, there's not much I can say or much I can do. But there are lots of ways that you can do this for yourself that work for you. That you might not have a fancy podcast with a crew and everything like that, but you have a voice nevertheless, and you have things that are interesting to you. And what are those things that are interesting to you? And I admire you so greatly for taking this on. You don't have to do this. It's quite wonderful. And I think we should all be like that, I guess is what I'm saying.
All right. So you heard it here from BD Wong. Speak your truth, he says.
Yes.
And he loves what he does.
I do.
And so you should too. Thank you. Thank you very much, BD Wong.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So this is the Loida Lewis Podcast. Let's live, love, laugh, and learn together.
The Loida Lewis Podcast, hosted by Loida Lewis, is produced by the creators of Over a Glass or Two, Jesse and JV. Executive produced by Laura Nicholas Olace. Rate and review us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts for a chance to be featured on a future episode. Have a question for Miss Loida? Just email us on askloidalewis@gmail.com. Your question might make its way to a future episode. Subscribe on all major platforms to never miss a beat. Thank you for listening to the Loida Lewis Podcast. Let's live, love, laugh, and learn together